Hi, Simran. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Sorry, you're seeing my bedroom and like all sorts of like junk on my bed
Hey,
as you know.
this is girl. This is real life. This is why we're here to talk today. We're here to talk about all of it. I'm gonna do a little intro, but I already told you we're gonna need far more time than what we're chatting about today. There's no way you can dive into a Simran with 30 minutes. But for everybody watching, and it's so fun to be back doing influencers. It's been quite a while. And today, as always, I feel like I always have the same intro. I have the opportunity to interview some really incredible people who are a part of our MPTF family. And today is no exception, and it is very timely. There's a lot going on, especially when you hear who she is and what she does. She's a multi hyphenate. Simran, who we have today, is a mom. She is an attorney. She is a friend. She's an advocate, philanthropist. She is a showrunner, writer, producer, writer being a key word that we're going to talk about a lot today. And she's on our next gen board. And I am thrilled. This is someone I've already learned a lot and I love dearly. And Simran, welcome to
Thank
Influencer.
you. Thank you so much for having me. This is a real treat.
This is wonderful. And I'm going to dive right in because I know we don't have a ton of time, but I like to know origin stories. So, I mean, I already kind of know yours, but let's tell everybody, Cliff's Notes version for those who remember what Cliff's Notes are. I think our children have no idea, but where'd you grow up? How did you get here? What influenced you to be? Because I know we've got this similar legal background, but how you got to where you are today and what influenced you?
Yeah, my parents are immigrants from India, and my dad came over in the 60s to go to college, and my mom came over in the 70s after they got married, and they settled in the Bay Area, and that's really where I was born and raised and grew up. And, I basically lived up and down the coast of California, went down to San Diego for undergrad. And when I was there, I was a double major in political science and with emphasis in law, and then also in what's it called in communications with film and TV. But I really, when graduation came and there were people that I did know who were going to film school and they asked if I was going, it just seemed like such a foreign concept for me. I just didn't, I was a little brown girl growing up in the Bay Area. It wasn't something that was in my ether. I came from a family of immigrants, like I said, who were, either engineers or accountants, and some were
So
doctors.
no one in the entertainment industry in
Zero.
the family.
Zero. Yeah. So I thought, okay, well, law is interesting. I'll go to law school. And my parents were like, yes, law school. That sounds great. And I did. I loved it. Law school was super exciting. And I graduated, passed the bar. I ended up taking a position as a criminal prosecutor back in the Bay Area at a district attorney's office. And I was there for about 4 years. And at that time, it was great until you started feeling like, oh, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? And I just felt like there was something else. There was something more that I wanted to do, something more creative. I mean, I remember there would be sometimes where I didn't have things on my calendar. And so I would leave early, or I would take an extended lunch and I would go to the movie theater to make sure I saw all the nominations for the Oscars that year, to make sure, I loved the industry. Growing up as a latchkey kid, the TV was my babysitter. So It was I was obsessed with everything as far as, the storytelling. And so it was at that time that I had a friend who was a junior exec at CBS. And he's like, and he slipped my resume to a showrunner of a show called Judging Amy back in the day. Mm-hmm. And very soon thereafter, I became an assistant. So I took, an 85% pay cut, and I started answering phones and fetching grilled cheese.
I mean, that point right there, which, we'll talk about. I mean, I was an English major, went into law school because my dad's an attorney, and what parents are going to be like, don't go to law school.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. All the parents are like, sure, lawyer, doctor. Yeah, great. Do that. And I worked in the hardcore gang unit, by the way, of the prosecutor's office.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, you did far more, but truly, and we're going to get into this later. I mean, you kind of tend to use that word struggling before artist or writer. You took an 85% pay cut. Like, what made you confident to do that leap of faith into something you were obviously, I know you have so much conviction, but like, why did you do that? That wasn't easy.
No, for sure. And I think that it came from I knew that I had a law career, that if I had to go back, I could, figure out how to do that. So that was obviously reassuring.
You had a good safety net.
Yes. And I had an incredible support system. At the time I was newly married. And even though, and then I had my parents, and they were all like, if this is something you want to go try, go do it. And, I really felt like everybody was really supportive. I mean, I'm sure my parents, thought it was like a pipe dream, like, she'll come back to the Bay Area and she'll be a lawyer again in 6 months or whatever. But, it really was that I had the emotional support, of being able to do that. And it was very quickly after moving to LA, I lived with a friend and then I rented an apartment, and my husband stayed up in the Bay Area. He was a criminal prosecutor. He's like, I like my job and I like where we live, so I'm not going to move just yet. But within a couple of months, he's like, you are infinitely more happy working in this creative environment, like being a part of the storytelling, seeing how the sausage is made. And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like, I don't know what, and even at that point, I wasn't sure if I was going to be a writer or what I was going to do, but I was like, I need to figure out how to make a career out of being in this industry.
Beautiful. And I want to talk to you about something again you just mentioned. And for some of the people listening are residents. I don't, the term like Desi writer, right? Like this is something that more of us, all of us should be familiar with. We know your background, you just said it. And I know you were, a brown girl, one of none or very few in the room. And I hope it's changing. I think we still have a ton of work to do. I'm sure you do as well, a whole nother episode. But tell me about that experience of like you infusing your culture and kind of, not kind of being a minority in the room, and how that's shaped your career right now.
Yeah, so the term you were talking about is actually Desi, which is a way
Desi,
of
thank you.
A lot of not all Southeast Asians, but a lot of Southeast Asians refer to themselves. We come from the Indian diaspora, from the country of India, and for me, yes, I have been the only person of color in a room before. I have been, and it is shifting. It's changing slower than I would like, but I do think that is changing. And now that as I've worked my way up the ladder, I am, I'm privileged enough to find myself in a position where I can hire other writers. And so for me, it's really important to not just see Indian people in rooms, in writers' rooms, because I want to see people of all different, intersectional backgrounds, and because I think that's really, it's a reflection of the real world, right? I want to see that on our TV and film screens. I think we have super interesting stories to tell that may be uniquely ours, but also to show that there are so many common threads in humanity that we all share, and I think that's, something that we can highlight when we have people who are different storytellers, both in the room. We have people who are different directors, filmmakers, and then obviously seeing them on the screen as well. I think that maybe part of that was the reason why I never thought that I could do something like this. I didn't see, if you can see it, you can be it. And I didn't see that. I didn't even hear about people like that. I really think the first person that I thought like, oh, maybe I could do that is when I remember hearing about Sherry Lansing and, how she was an actor and then she became a script reader and she worked her way up to running one of the largest film studios in the world, Paramount Studios. And I just remember hearing her speak and hearing her talk, and I was like, oh my God, like if she can do that, maybe I can do that too. Not that I would be able to run Paramount, but you know what I mean? Like that there was a way in, that you didn't have to follow a very strict path. Like the only other paths that I had heard were really about like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, who went to film school and, directed stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's not the path I took. So maybe this isn't an opportunity for me. So that's something I really love about this industry is there is no one way to get in and to do, things in here. So I think that's really interesting to hear people's, different trajectories.
Yeah, and I love, first of all, shout out to Sherry Lansing. We all love her dearly, dearly. I've had the privilege of being at MPTF, and I know you as well. Sherry Lansing is unbelievable. And what I love about that is, and to your point, it's not just about seeing people exactly like you. It's about giving opportunities to everybody, because that's what this world looks like. And that's what makes, content, that word is far overused, but it's what gives us the real stories. And you saw a woman, by the way, you can run Paramount or whatever studio you want. I fully support that. But yes, reading Sherry's book and knowing her, it's like, you can go do anything. you can truly go do anything if you have that conviction, which you do. Um, so, man, there's a writer's strike going on.
You always hope for the best, but I think being a mom and being a showrunner, you prepare for the worst. And that's what I did, and really, like, I was on a show at the time, so I had to walk away from set, which was really difficult because, so many people have put, blood, sweat, tears into trying to get that off the ground, and we were filming. And so, but, I had an incredible, our incredible cast and producers and, all of our crew. They were super supportive, and they understand because they too are union members, and they understand what it means that when we're going, nobody wants to go on strike. Nobody wants to not work. Nobody wants to not get paid, but sometimes you have to do that for the greater good. And so people were supportive, and so I had to leave, which was really heartbreaking, but it was, it's necessary.
And I want to jump back to that. And by the way, just you saying, of course, nobody wants to do this. This isn't, I think even many in the industry don't quite, it's quite a complex issue. From the last time there was a strike in 2007, it's almost an existential issue that we're dealing with. There's no one size fits all. Very much hoping for solutions, but let's go back to you real quick and just tell everyone, like, list a little bit of your CV, like tell us some of the projects that you've been working on, and maybe if you want to mention the one you left, or just some of what you've been doing, because it's fascinating and beautiful.
Well, I started out writing for a 1-hour dramedy at Universal for USA called Royal Pains. I was there for a number of seasons. And then I worked on Chicago Med, and I ended up working on The Good Doctor. So I worked on many medical shows. I have zero medical knowledge, although I feel like probably I could get an MD at this point. But and then, I really wanted to, again, challenge myself. I wanted to pivot and see what else I could do, stretch my creativity. And that's when Jeff Rake offered me the opportunity to join Manifest. And so I joined them in season 2, and we are actually the final 10 episodes of the series drops tonight at midnight. So it's been a real privilege and an honor to work on that show that deals with so many complex, characters and family issues and a little bit of sci-fi and mythology. And it was a real joy to be a part of that. And then the show I'm working on now that I pivoted from is a brand new show that will hopefully drop, in the not so distant future, I should say, on Amazon. It's a half-hour single cam comedy called Clean Slate, and that's produced by Norman Lear and stars Laverne Cox and George Wallace.
Fantastic. By the way, Norman Lear, talk about some legends. I mean, you're dropping Sherry Lansing, Norman Lear, still working. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been a true gem and collaborator and just a great, and a supporter of the strike and the supporter of, all the efforts of union workers everywhere. Yeah.
So I think ending with the strike, because there's so much to talk about, but we are here for MPTF. You are on our MPTF Next Gen board, which is such an important board. And I want to ask you, well, let me just start with this. How did you learn about MPTF? Why'd you join the board? What's your MPTF story?
So for me, it was another board member, Jeffrey Colo, who I adore. He and I worked, we were assistants together on a show called House. And, just kept in touch, as you kind of build your work family and they become your friends. And I want to say about 6-7 years ago, he invited me to an MPTF event, and I didn't know much about it. And so I went to support him. And as I was there, that's when I really learned about, so many social causes and, services that they offer the entertainment community, and it wasn't just, obviously there's the gorgeous Wasserman campus, but it was, really something where I thought, oh, wow, that this is about community outreach. This is about being able to care for people holistically, their families. There was childcare, financial aid. There were so many other opportunities and things that they gave back to the community, which I thought was, so wonderful, because I think that at least for me, I grew up always, my parents are very involved with community service. And for me, it was really important to do the work and pay it forward. And I feel like I have a duty and obligation to make sure that those who have come before and paved the path for me to do my dream job are taken care of. And this is a way for us to firsthand, walk the walk and, really contribute back. And then not just financially, like I love going and volunteering in person, and I bring my kids to volunteer in person. It's really, I think that, whenever you do any kind of community service, if you can do it in person, you gain so much yourself as much as you give.
And it sounds like your family, I mean, you've got a big heart anyways, but that was really infused with your growing up. Your
100%.
family taught you about that, which I think is so important. A lot of people don't have that kind of influence. Like, speaking of influencers, you were influenced to know that community work and volunteering and giving back, I'm assuming your family taught you when you give back, you
100%.
probably get more than you ever expected to give.
And it just became it was a part of our lives. My family is from the Sikh faith, and there's a term called seva, which just means service. And that is what I grew up with, knowing that word and knowing what that meant in all of its forms, whether it was serving, when you go to a gurdwara, which is the temple that Sikh people belong to, it is open to everybody, regardless of religious faith, and there is a lunch, and it's called langar, and it's meant to serve the masses, no matter where you come from, who you are, what walk of life you're from. And so that was just something that that's what you did on Sundays. You would go and you would serve, a hot meal to people. Sometimes that was the only meal that they had for the day, the week, who knows. But it was like, if you come, we will serve you.
That's beautiful. You mentioned, though, something that we struggle with often, which is it took Jeffrey Cole. You were in the industry. It took Jeffrey Colo, your friend, to invite you to an event, a specific MPTF event, to really learn. And we feel very strongly that once people learn about MPTF, they get it. They love it. It's beautiful. The mission stands alone, but the struggle is knowing who we are and getting to that next generation of which you are part of that board. Why do you think, gosh, this is a big question. I don't expect you to have the entire solution, but why do you think it is so difficult to teach people about MPTF, and why do they not already know about it? It's 101 years. Many people ask, how do they not know about you? I mean, what's your experience with that?
I will say, for me, honestly, I really thought it was about the elderly community and, having this campus which it does incredible work.
Yes.
But I didn't know the depths of what all MPTF did, the outreach that they do for people, regardless of age and, walk of life. So I thought that was really important. And I think, we took it, when I joined, it was right when COVID hit, when I joined the board.
Right.
And so I think that like shut down a lot of opportunities for us to meet in person, to have, opportunities to outreach. There were, we had a worldwide pandemic. So the priorities shifted for everybody, and I think that, now we're finally coming out the other side. It's not that COVID has gone away, but it's manageable. We understand how to navigate it and be able to go see people in person. And I think now is an opportunity, again, for us to go back and figure out, what it is that we do philanthropically. Actually, even with the writer's strike, MPTF has put themselves out to say, hey, we are here for you as a resource. What do you need? Because, there are a number of writers, and this is part of what the problem is with and why we're going on strike, is that have become gig workers. There is no longer you work on a show and it supports you for a year and helps to pay for your pension and health. Those days are dwindling very rapidly. So we have members in our community who are food insecure, who, are figuring out and struggling about how to pay rent, how to take care of their families. And so MPTF, I think that, is a way for us to I would love to see more MPTF members. Jason George, I've seen a bunch on the picket line, and to see them, be there on the picket line as a resource and also to show support. I think that's a great way to get out and say, hey, here's who we are. Here's what we can provide you with. Here's what we can do. Here's just a resource. And just knowing that those resources exist is so huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, absolutely getting out there physically, but many people ask us, do we administer a strike fund? We don't, because we are in essence a strike fund.
Yeah.
All the time. We are that safety net. So when there are other resources, we'll help you get there. But to have advocates like you going out there and say, just give MPTF a call. Just give them a call. Whether you qualify or not, you are going to get some kind of help. And that's really what moves our hearts, to see what our social workers and our nurses and everyone is just overwhelmed in 2007 with this strike. And here we are again, which, let's get to that. You were saying people don't want to do this. People don't do this because it's cute or it's easy. I mean, cutting your own financials like that. It's because you believe in it so much, which it's very unique to this industry. You see striking, you see other unions, but it's very unique to this industry that makes this global attention of this thing that brings so many people joy. So we are June 1st when we're filming this.
Yes.
The last strike was 100
days.
100 days. What are you thinking right now? Are you hopeful? Are you where's your mentality at right now in this strike?
I always have cautious optimism. I try to maintain that. I think that that's one of the reasons why we're out there is that, like we are a united front. We are understanding that this is for the greater good, that there are, people of all levels who, we're in a situation where it's about securing the collective future of writers in this industry, that it is going to be, the fear is that, this as a career will dissipate and it will go away. And, I know there's a lot of thoughts about people thinking like, oh, you're in Hollywood, you're already, you're coastal elite, you're whatever. But this is really about equity. This is about, getting a fair deal, our fair share for the work we put in, and I have found myself like, trying to, I have young kids, so it's trying to explain to them what is a union and why is it that we're doing this. And it's the understanding of the power that we take care of our own. There are people who are in positions of power who may not need to strike, who are like, whatever, I can just go, on vacation. But there are other people who, this is life or death for them. And it's really about, there's a number of issues, obviously, they talk about like equity, it's about the streaming, it's about residuals, it's about AI, it's about mini rooms. There's so many things that are, about it, but in its simplest form, it's about equity, and really making sure that we preserve this incredible industry that we all have a privilege to be a part of and to continue to create, because it entertainment has that. It can bring you so much joy, but it can also educate. And I think it has really changed the world for the better. And, I would love to be a part of continuing that legacy.
I wanted to hop on really quickly to say, if both of you have a little bit more time beyond 4 o'clock, this is such an important conversation. We'll hold off on happy hour to give you guys more space to continue talking if you both have time.
Simran, it's up to you.
I'm at your beck and call.
Beautiful. Good, because Jen, I've got more things I want to chat with you about, of course, but continuing on with the strike, I mean, you said something that to me, we know this is very complex. I was going to ask you, how do you explain it to the lay person or even the industry person? I've been listening to Billy Ray and Todd Garner have this podcast with Deadline, which has been educating me. And I remember on the first episode where Todd Garner, who was in the industry, like much deeper than I am, he was like, I don't even understand all of this. So it's been helping to educate me. And it is quite an existential thing. And for me being, an English major, someone who has never really been a writer, but I very much respect writers. It's very personal. When you say that like this job could be going away, people don't like, how are we going to get entertainment anymore if there are no writers?
Yeah.
AI is not going to write our stories. Sure, there's an algorithm. Like, I can't stand this conversation that like AI, come on. I mean, what, not to be dark, but you cannot get rid of writers. You have to treat them well.
And even, the AI that exists, it all, it's pulling from something, right? So it is pulling from, from IP already.
They're not thinking. They're using great technology, but they're not thinking.
Right. But the way technology has advanced, I think it's not so far off that they will be able to generate things and be able, from a legal standpoint, say like, oh, look, this is not really derivative of anything. This is, wholly original that my computer thought up. And I think, we've seen it in film and TV, and I think that that's, based in reality, and I really do think that in the next 5 to 10 years that it is a possibility. And I think that's what we're trying to do is really make a safeguard against that, not only just ourselves, but for SAG-AFTRA, for the DGA. And, I'm in full support of all the other unions. It's been remarkable to see all the other unions coming to support us. Like I said, SAG-AFTRA, DGA, IATSE, Teamsters, it's just been overwhelming and just in such a wonderful way. And I think that they all understand that, this is for again, when I say collective good, not just for the Writers Guild, for everybody in this industry. And there are millions of people who are employed here who, may be without jobs. And I think that that's not being hyperbolic at all.
It's not. And it's the collective good is not just this industry. I think it's the globe. It is
100%. 100%.
Right?
It's reflective of everything.
Yes.
If you think that AI is just coming for Hollywood, you're mistaken. It's coming for everybody's job.
It's coming
And so
for
I think
everybody.
and I think that that's where, bringing awareness, obviously, to what's going on here will hopefully enlighten people, in other unions and other jobs to say, hey, what's going to happen to us as people.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's always an opportunity to educate and to learn. My daughter and I, we live right near Culver City where many studios are. And the collection of people coming together with their conviction of character is a beautiful thing. It usually stems from something that's not beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But, we were out there in front of Sony the other day and people, and just talk, I encouraged my 8-year-old to just ask some questions because she's like, what are they doing? I was like, go talk to them. I can tell you, but go talk to them. These are the people that are out here doing this. This is not easy to stand there with a sign and to do that. It might, you're not at work. This is not easy for anybody.
Right.
So for people who either are not in this industry or not able or not going to strike or they're not actual writers, like what do you think is the best thing for people to do to kind of just support this strike ending and to support this industry? Like what's the best thing we can do?
Just being vocal. I think this is where we get to use something like social media. We get to use these platforms to show our support, and whether you can if you can retweet something or talk about support for the WGA, or if you're in person and you want to come, walk one of the picket lines. There's so many people who are not in the industry who are just in support of, what it is that we're fighting for, which is, again, it's equity, it's fairness, it's fair wages. And, and then there is another component. We have people who donate flats of water or they'll donate sunscreen or, just anything. And for us, it's even if you're just driving down the street and you honk, that people like that boasts our collective, vigor, is because there's we're not just out there. I mean, it's sometimes that people say like, oh, you guys are having fun out there, where it's not about having fun. It's about how do we continue to lift our spirits in a very, very dire situation? How do we keep the momentum? How do we keep this kind of energy? Because, I think we might be in it for a little bit, and, it's not, we're in week 5 and we have seen no signs of shifting. So it's going to be a marathon. And when we see people driving by and honking or, dropping off water or, just, retweeting something, like we've had, President Biden has spoken out about it, and in support of the Writers Guild and, equity and fairness and wages. And so has President Obama. And when you see people like that, when you see anybody, even just a layperson, just saying, we support you, we hear you, fight the good fight, it really, it touches my heart. And I've had that in, I'm wearing my Writers Guild shirt or a hat, and I'm going to, grab a cup of coffee or, to go to the grocery store, and to hear perfect strangers saying that, it means the world.
Absolutely. And I think that one thing that people can take away is small things matter. Even
Definitely.
if you gave one person in that picket line a bottle of water, you don't have to support everybody in that line, but to give a honk and for people on the front lines and who are picketing to smile through crises. No one's having fun. We know that. But we're here together, collectively fighting against something that everyone believes in, which is really beautiful. So to be seen and to be heard is so important. And that is, of course, with this specific strike that we're talking about, but it's with every issue. If people can be seen and heard in what they are doing and what they're passionate in, I think it's a good lesson for all of us to learn from.
Use your platform, whatever it is,
Use the platform.
And that's the whole thing. I mean, social media, gets a bad rap a lot, and there are a lot of pitfalls, but I think that we can use it as an instrument for good, and, an instrument for positive change. And that's, how I try to navigate, my life and try to navigate the things that, everybody's made mistakes and done stuff and faltered and here and there. But I think that overall, once you see that you can use it for positivity and, effectuate positive change, then, why wouldn't you try to do that and spread that a little bit more?
Yeah, life's a dichotomy. You got good and
Yes.
bad in everything you're going to do. So why not try to spread a little good? And obviously, you mentioned just taking care of our own. It's literally Mary Pickford's like message for MPTF. It is about picking people up when they fall. It's about supporting them so they don't fall. It's what everyone's doing for the writers. I love to see. I just love in this industry how people come together for each other. So many people that are not writers are supporting this because this industry does not operate with just studio executives or just grips or just writers. Everyone's got to come together. There are
Sure. And that's one of the main reasons why I love MPTF is because there's a collective vision about giving back, and there's a collective goal, and you see it not just through words, but through action. And again, it's, showing up at the campus and volunteering and giving your time. And if you have the financial means, then being able to, donate to MPTF, being able to donate to Entertainment Industry Fund, places that really take care of our own. And so, that's it's super important to me. And I want to infuse that, same sense of community service and giving back to my own children, so that, it's how do you teach the next generation? And that's what, being a part of the Next Gen board is about. It's like telling people who are our age, like, hey, it's not just about parents or grandparents or elders. There's so much more involved. And once you just attend and just see what we're really about, you'll find like-minded individuals who care about the collective future.
Yeah, just show up, right? Just show up. And that's what's so beautiful about Next Gen. I mean, obviously, any nonprofit wants the financial support, but what we talk about so much at MPTF is advocate, volunteer, just show up. And that's really what I love Next Gen so much is it's about all of it, just learning. And you are such an incredible advocate. And what a good mom, what you're teaching your kiddos and just being a part of this and to have your legal mind with your creative mind is a very special perspective. We're here to help, that, and we will continue to hear your voice. I would like to continue this conversation. I hope that the next time we talk, it's over. But if it's not, let's come back and get an update and see where we're at.
Absolutely.
So another big question before we get to a couple of fun ones. What do you hope to see at the end of this strike? What are you hopeful for when it's done? Are your expectations big? Are they like, where do they stand on it's done and we're moving forward?
Yeah, I hope that everybody feels good about the deal that's made, and I feel for me, it's about making sure that our union is protected and that our union is sustainable. There's a lot of things like people are asking about, like, for me, it's about how do you sustain the future? Well, future is also making sure that we secure health and pension. And that's making sure that we give writers of every step, whether you're a staff writer or executive story editor or co-EP jobs, because the more we can create jobs, the more we can have members. That's, they pay into pension and health, and that helps to take care of the people who need it most. And, and everybody, it's our collective future. So it's about making sure that that is secure. And once, I feel that once a deal is reached, because I do feel hopeful that a deal will be reached, that we will come to some agreement, that we can then put aside whatever differences that we have and go back to doing what we all love, which is creating art, creating film and TV and really entertaining people. And, it really is a dream. It is a dream. It is a real privilege to be able to do what we do, but it is also a lot of hard work. So, I think people are just asking for their fair share. And, once you give people that respect, once you give people, that equity, then, I think everybody's going to put their best foot forward to, I'll continue entertaining the masses for years to come.
Talk about a lot of work, by the way. This is so not a 9-to-5 job. When you
not at all.
I think people think entertainment and, oh, it's so fun. You try writing a segment. Try writing many episodes. It is a 24-hour-a-day job. But tell me, I want everyone to hear about the importance of collaboration as a writer, because a lot of people do hear, well, one person can write one show. And Billy Ray, I mean, you already are shaking your head, of course. The writer's room is so important, but talk to people about why collaboration in this process is integral to this job.
it's so, I mean, it's important because like we're trying to tell stories that, you know, that immerse ourselves in unique experiences that do something different. But when you have a writer's room, this is why part of like why I love having intersectional and inclusive writer's rooms, because you have people from different backgrounds, you know, and different life experiences. And when you're talking about a story, somebody will come up with something or pitch a kernel of an idea or anything. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought of that. It was not my lived experience, but it's yours. Let's riff on that. Let's do something. And the excitement in that kind of like lightning in a bottle, you know, it's very contagious. You get people who feel like they're in a safe environment where they can pitch things and talk about things. And it really is where, like, you know, the cream rises to the top, all the great ideas. And that's why, like, for me, I don't care what level of a writer you are. I even ask assistants in the room and like other, you know, I was like, do you have an idea? Do you have a thought? Please feel free to share. Does something bump you? Tell me why. Let's try to figure it out. Because I really do, you know, everybody has these ideas and thoughts. And, you know, it's because of that we have so many incredible, you know, series and television shows and, you know, films that you're just like, where did that come from? How did that come out of somebody's mind? And it's, you know, it's about sparking that creativity. And I think a lot of it comes from that collaborative process of being with people. Like in a writer's room, you work with other writers, but also, you know, I've had great collaborators who are producers. I've had incredible collaborators who are studio and network executives. And, you know, people who really, you know, love the art of what we try to do. And, you know, it's contagious. And I think that's the most fun, like to be able to be in that room and all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, we've been here for 8 hours. And we're just talking about, you know, a spaceship coming in from another planet, who knows? But, you know, and it can be something even just about a dynamic about, you know, a couple or a family or a person's, you know, singular journey. It's just, there are so many facets to creating the narrative that, you know, not just from a plot standpoint, but from really digging into the emotional and the intellectual and all of the things that, you know, are really make us who we are, make us human, right? That's
unique to that human experience. I think what you're speaking to is exactly why, sure, I think as a global population, AI is a thing. It's going to continue to be a thing. We see that in the world, but it's not going to give you that human experience. And that's the beauty of talking to someone who's going to plant a little seed to take you that way and some, you know, to engage your mind. Thank you for that. We got to support that. I mean, I know everybody listening in MPTF and the campus supports this creative process. And people outside of the industry, it's just, this is too important. I love how many people know about what's going on. I think the awareness is helping.
Huge. Yes.
Huge. And I hope it ends as soon as possible so that everyone can get back to the work that they love.
Same. Your lips to God's ears.
Yes. To a really fun segue, a hard question, but a different level of hard. Jen and I like to ask everybody, this is really tough, right? Are you ready?
Okay.
You're ready. Okay. What is your favorite television show of all time?
Of all time?
All time. All Simran's life. All of your time.
Wow.
Favorite show.
Well,
and if you want to do it like favorite show now, then fine. Like, tell us.
You know, I really, really adore Friday Night Lights. I know it's more recent, but, you know, it hasn't been on the air for a while. But I think what Jason Katims did with that series, again, it sounded like it was a show about football, which, you know, it was a show about family. It was a really, you know, complex drama. And I have gone back and watched the series again because I think that it is so nuanced and so special. And again, it's about humanity. It's really about, like, there are more things that, you know, make us alike than make us different. And I think it talks about socioeconomic, it talks about race, it talks about culture, it talks about just family dynamics and relationships. I just thought it was a really beautifully written show. And, you know, that for me is, you know, something that is like, and also, like, you know, there's a show that you love, but then even as a writer, you're like, man, if I got to write on a show like that.
I was going to say,
yeah.
You're watching that, like, I wish I could have, like, been on that and written some of it.
For sure.
But you obviously like those projects, if I may, that check all the boxes, right? They give you laugh, they give you emotion, they give you real life, sports. This was not a show about football. This was
Right.
just
And I watch football, but yes, it was about so much more. It was about so much more. And that's what I think is really fun. And, there's so many incredible series that you're just like, you think about, and it allows you to escape when you're able to like escape and feel emotion. I mean, when a TV show makes you cry, makes you laugh, that is hitting some chord, that is really hard to achieve.
Yeah. I remember the first book that made me do an ugly cry was in second grade. I remember the first film that made me do that. And to be so moved, especially with the book, obviously it's writing. There was no visual. It was writing. Film, but it's the writing that got you there. And then, of course, it's the visual and the performance. But you remember those moments.
It starts on the page.
For me, that film, by the way, was Phenomenon.
Oh, wow.
Remember that?
Yes, of course.
At the end, when it was like, it's happening, I was like, ah. Anyways. And then the book was Where the Red Fern Grows in second grade.
Yeah.
I just bought that for my kids. It's not on the curriculum anymore. Crazy how curriculum's changing. All right, I've got one more, but I want to ask you, because you've been a part of such incredible projects. It's probably hard to pick your favorite, but what's been one of the most meaningful work experiences for you? What project were you like, this is why I do what I do? And maybe it's all of them.
Yeah, I mean, you take away something special from all of them, for sure. I think there was a show that I worked on called Ordinary Joe a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. That was kind of it was a beautiful kind of sliding doors-esque, show about different worlds. But it was a full circle personal moment for me because the Russell Friend and Garrett Lerner, who created the show, I was their assistant, on House many moons ago. And when they had the show, it was their first show that got picked up to series. And they called me and they said, we want you to come work on it. And by then, I'd come on and I was the number 2 on the show, and I was helping to run the show. And it was just this wonderful thing where you feel like, you build community within this, industry. And they had been incredible mentors and friends and helped, I call them about everything. And for them to call me and say, please come work with us and be our collaborator and be our colleague was just a real gift. It was really, really special. And I'm so bummed that the show, got canceled and we didn't get to do more of it. But every day on that was just such a joy. It was a really, really fun experience. And and it was we all did it on Zoom, so again, in the time of COVID, where we were not in person, we met people in boxes, and I met so many incredible people through that experience and those writers. And that there was something unique about coming together in a time when we could not be physically together, but we shared such in-depth emotional stories, and we were what was going in through our lives at that time, that it's something very unique that, I think was crafted between all of us, and that thread that links all of us. And now when we do see each other in person on the picket line, unfortunately, it is, there's nothing but joy. We have just a lot of respect and a lot of love for one another. And it was truly a very special experience.
This industry, it's so much family, is it not? I mean, you are clearly rooted in family, your upbringing, being a mom, and now you're in this industry that is, it just feels like family, right? This is your extended family.
Yeah, the good and the bad and the dysfunctional.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
All of it. All of the
above.
Yeah, but when I say the word family, and I know that can be triggering for some people, but for me, it really is about, I think it's my heart. For me, it's really, if I say somebody is like my family, I don't mean that in a derogatory term. For me personally, it is about the intentionality with which you.
Yes. Said. Way to define that, because it can't. Of course, it's triggering. Not everyone has grown up. It's the family you choose, or maybe it's a different word, like you were saying. It's the intention of being with people that are like-minded and you love and stick with for good or bad.
Exactly.
Okay. Well. Another question. So we talked about your favorite series. We got to do this one. Yes?
I was coming on to ask
You ask it. I like when Jen.
Jen,
By the way,
love
I
you
know
popping in. It's great.
I love when Jen pops in. I know I was hoping some of the residents maybe had some questions for Simran. I'm sure there's some bubbling up, but I also have to say Maggie, who was on before, and I have to echo, you look adorable in this hat. I love this look for you. It's so cute. All right,
Thank you.
ask our last question.
All right, so super important. What's your favorite movie?
Well, movies have genres, so I could go into multiple genres, but for me, a movie that I adore and is When Harry Met Sally. For me, Nora Ephron is genius, and she was, such an incredible storyteller. And as funny as it was heartbreaking too. There are moments in there that, and I watch it, whenever it's on, or every once in a while, like I'm on an airplane, and it still strikes such a chord. And I think it means different things to you at different times of your life, and that's the power of a really great film, is that like you can watch it over and over again at different times in your life, and it still holds up, and it still has depth, and it still has resonance. So yeah, she made me laugh and she made me cry, and what's better than that?
I mean, the Ephron Empire is quite fantastic.
Yeah.
I won't have you recreate the famous scene. No, Jen, not that's another show. That's a late night.
That's another show. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun to chat with you. I know, but I hope you know all of the MPTF studio staff, all of like MPTF staff was really excited. We love you. We're so happy you're on our next gen board. We're so proud of the work you're doing. I adore you, Simran, on many, many, many levels. And we will continue this conversation, but thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for asking me to be here. And, it's an honor to serve with the MPTF.
Awesome. Well, keep telling our story, keep doing the good work, and keep bringing us awesome content.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, girl. Thank you.
Bye.